As someone who plays drums, naturally I follow several drummers. It was when Aaron Sterling posted a particular snare that I reached out to today's guest, Jefferson Shallenberger, founder of Sugar Percussion. We chat drum building, Sugar's beginnings and process, Jefferson's time spent building furniture, and we even dig into his internal work, which has affected every relationship he shares. We wrap things up discussing a very special watch and the story behind the two unique cars in his garage. One hosts an incredibly beautiful steering wheel made from Claro walnut, ebony, and holly. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Doing well. I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been a long time coming. I'm excited.
Uh-oh. Then that sounds like expectation. That's how I hear that.
No, all good. I'll be gentle.
That's not my fear.
Yeah. Where do we find you? Obviously, this appears to be your house.
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Right. And is your workshop there at the house as well?
So we have two workshops. Half of it is up here underneath me, so I live
Okay.
above it. And then the original workshop's in Santa Cruz, California.
Right.
And that one's still going with my partner, Noah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, interesting. All right, well, we'll get more into that for sure.
I tried to get him and his family to move here. I begged them and they couldn't do it.
Well, Santa Cruz is a special place.
That's one word for it.
Yeah, it's I feel like it is. I've never lived there, but I feel like it's the type of place where either people kind of come and go or they are there and they never leave kind of thing. Like there's not like a hey, I lived there for 25 years thing. It's like I lived there for 3 years, 4 years and then left. But I don't know.
I lived there for 15 years.
Okay, all right. So you're the exception to my brain at least.
No, I think your perception is pretty spot on. I think there are a lot of lifers there. And then there's the whole, I mean, given there's a university right in the middle of it, that's a transient population.
Right.
And it changes seasonally. You can feel it in the streets, just sort of the level or the density of humans, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Whether it's school time or not,
Yeah, definitely.
I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, so NC State is there 18 miles away. You've got Chapel Hill, and then Durham's got Duke, so it's like you
Yeah.
definitely Chapel Hill is very similar, I would say, it's kind of a college town as it were. But
Yeah, and that's good and bad. I mean, depends on I mean, a university will bring all kinds of cool shit through your city.
totally.
It'll also bring a bunch of entitled 20-year-old twats through your, it's
Yeah.
just like I was at 20 thinking the world was
Yeah.
mine and yeah, rules don't apply to me and all the things, all the beautiful things of being 20, you know?
Well, and then with the history of North Carolina, it's like a lot of it's contingent on how well your sports teams are doing. So it's kind of like, you get that element as well, which I don't really, I don't think of UC Santa Cruz as being that way.
I mean, it depends on whether you want to call Frisbee Ultimate a sport.
Yeah, yeah. How good is your surf club? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's an interesting place. I I didn't like it the whole time I was there, but I fully recognize that it has a particular itch it can scratch. I just didn't, mine was a misalignment.
Interesting.
I think it's a wonderful place for a lot of people and it was a bad match for me. But it was a great place to raise a kid. We moved there because it was right between my daughter's grandmothers, and for that reason alone, it was perfect.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I understand you were born in Oahu. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
How long were you in Hawaii?
My parents split when I was two. Mom's sister and I moved to California, and then dad stayed in Hawaii, and I would go back in the summers
Cool.
till 12, from 5 to 12, when you could just toss a 5-year-old on an airplane, hand him to a stewardess, and they'd get you all jacked up on Shirley Temples for 5 hours. And
Right.
uh, yeah, back when you could walk your kids to the gate, and so you see your kid crying and mom was crying and walked down the gangplank. You just hand them to some overly makeup stewardess, they were so kind to us. But yeah, so until 12, then dad moved around and but that's sort of that was my extent of Hawaii. Um,
What did he do for work there?
he let's see, when they split up, he was a wildlife photographer
Oh, wow.
and would make movies about birds is the short version. He was an ornithologist um, and then he eventually got a real job with the Fish and Wildlife Service, which meant he managed wildlife refuges and we would go there and count birds and it, it's a checkered past for me, but he was very happy in it. Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's interesting. And then you spent time in Palo Alto, which I think you and I connected sort of. I think my wife's from Palo Alto. So I think way back when you and I were discussing that very, very briefly.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Which high school did you go to?
She went to Gunn.
Oh, that's what I went to. And
Oh, yeah.
how old you look much younger than me?
I'm older than I look. I'm 45. So,
Just still a pup though.
right, right. Well, I mean, it's all relative, I guess. But
And she's the same age or
yeah,
near?
yeah, she's 40. Yeah, so she's a
Oh,
little younger.
okay. Yeah.
But great school. Cool.
Yeah, I mean a really Palo Alto was I mean there's plenty to fault, but for a single mom with two kids who couldn't afford private school, I mean its public school system was phenomenal.
Sure.
And for a couple latchkey kids, it was great. It was a safe, uh, nurturing place that could assuage a mother's fears when she had to be at work all day, you know?
Yeah, that was their upbringing as well. Definitely latchkey for sure. What woodworking school did you go to?
College of the Redwoods up in Fort Bragg.
Okay, in Fort Bragg. Okay, got it. I have a buddy that went to, I think it was in Hawaii actually. Was there like a woodworking school? I want to say, I thought it was on Oahu. I could be mistaken. He made my front door for my house. The guy named Kyle, amazing guy. Does a lot of like, I
Kyle's a
don't
good
know.
woodworker's name.
Yeah, it is totally. Yeah, he just sounds like he makes stuff. Um, that's
A
great.
little bit of trouble, but it's mostly good stuff.
Go ahead.
Woodworking is such a hermetic profession that when anybody asks me, "Hey, do you know?" It's 95% of the time like, "No, I don't leave the
Right.
shop, and neither does your friend." So
Right. Right.
there's no
Yeah.
chance yeah, yeah.
You started Sugar because you wanted your own drum kit, right? Or you needed a new one?
I had been making furniture for over 10 years and then my drum kit fell up. Oh, let's see. I go back. I was in woodworking school and had a minute waiting for some wood for a furniture project to be delivered and I had a week and my drum kit had fallen apart. So I had
Okay.
access to a wood shop and a arrogance that I could do stuff in it and I had a busted drum kit. So I just decided to try and make one. And it was, I wouldn't jack my car up with that kit now. It was garbage, but it was so exciting.
Right.
And then that sort of got shelved for, let's see, that was 1997 and it was 2011 when I started the company,
Oh wow. Okay.
which was there were 3 years or so of just sort of off hours R&D, kind of making drums around the furniture business,
Mm-hmm.
taking him to friends, listening to the play. And there was a Tuesday night gig in town with a friend that was a drummer, and I would make a new snare drum every week, bring
Oh
it to him,
wow.
and he'd play it, and then we talk about it. And yeah, it was really fun. And he was great and had a lot of good input. And then I would tweak it and make another one for the next week, and then we talk about that. That was sort of the slow beginnings of that.
Interesting. Okay, so that was sort of a roundabout question also to ask the different question, which is like when did you start playing drums?
I started in sixth grade.
Okay. Was that because of school or because of influence of some sort?
Why did I? Because I wanted to be cool. I don't know. I thought
Right.
I mistakenly thought that was the path there too.
To cool. Yeah.
Yeah, to cool. Yeah, turns out no. I mean, maybe if I had practiced, but yeah, I don't. I maybe I had friends that were taking up instruments. I tell a lie. So I played trumpet in an all-city band, and I was the worst trumpet player in the band. So I was last chair, which meant I was all the way over on the left. They're like four notes per song, like 50 measures of one note, and that's all they thought I could handle. But the drums sat right next to me. So I was watching this kid who turned out to be a phenomenal engineer, producer, Eric Valentine. Do you remember this? What was the band? Third Eye Blind.
Oh, sure.
Huge. Yeah, he produced that album. That was the sort of album that made him famous, and then he's gone on to do wonderful things. Really sweet human, phenomenal drummer. He was a year older than me. He used to skateboard into practice. He had long
Nice.
hair. He was everything I wanted to be. And we're sitting here playing Eye of the Tiger, and I'm watching this kid who was way cooler than me play the drums, and I wanted to do that. And that's why I started lessons.
Oh, that's
Completely forgot
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yeah, we got back in touch once I had started the drum company, and I reached out to him and told him this whole story. He didn't remember me. I was very unmemorable.
Yeah.
And remember, was that kid that was staring at you the whole time when you were in seventh grade? He was probably too stoned to know, but yeah, and he ended up helping me make some videos at his studio in LA when I
Wow.
had drums that I was at the beginning, trying to promote. Yeah.
Wow. So, well, how did you make the decision to start the business in 2011 then? Like, how did you know it was going to be a business?
I still don't know it's going to be a business. I don't, it's so presumptuous in such a generous light. So I had been making them in the off hours for fun. Starting a business sounds much more calculated than anything I've ever done. It's been more about hiding from a job that I didn't like.
Right.
I was going to be a school teacher, and then I took a woodworking class. I was all signed up for grad school, and then I went to that woodworking school, and it's like I just want to do this. How do I hide here for the next 30 years? And the drums were kind of the same thing. Um, I don't really, there wasn't a conscious decision to, I'm now making this a business. It was
Oh,
just I was
interesting.
doing it for fun.
Right.
Rent was paid by the furniture business, so I had a little I mean, I had the wood shop at that point. Um, I had more time than money, so I just started making them and liked making them, and then I guess I started posting pictures of it. That's Instagram was and continues to be the only sort of marketing method.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What are you still building furniture at all?
Hmm. Yeah.
What's sort of the aesthetic, would you say?
It varies. You know, most of the furniture has all been private commissions, so it's whatever someone else wants. So
I see.
whatever's in style at the time. I mean, it's been 27 years, so that style has changed. I have my own leanings. So if I have more reign to design, it'll head towards I would label myself a Japanophile.
Okay, so like a Nakashima type of thing?
Not so much the kind of live edge organic stuff, just more of uh, a stripped down, simple line. That's, man, I'm telling a bunch of lies here. There's been an evolution that can, in retrospect, be clearly linked to my level of insecurity.
Okay. All
When I
right.
was 27 in woodworking school and sort of discovered some sort of innate talent for it, uh, and then was thrown into this school where they celebrated the deepest of neuroses for this very niche thing.
Mm,
It was like a candy store and someone just gave me the keys.
mm.
And there were these wonderful professors and this beautiful wood shop in this picturesque place, and it was 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and I couldn't get enough. And I was so insecure that I wanted I needed every piece to scream, "Come look at me.
Mm.
Please come look at me and tell me I'm good." And that, yeah, I didn't make anything that went in the corner. Every piece was a center of the room cabinet. It's so, from a psychological standpoint, it's really kind of tragic, but it's amusing at this point. And I've noticed how the things have calmed as I've become less insecure, the pieces have calmed down, and I'm not screaming from in a gallery, "Please come tell me I'm good," kind of thing.
What were sort of the
This is a
details?
psychological podcast, right? This is,
Oh, I mean, we could talk about your parents' divorce if you want, and like your relationship with your father, but oh, I mean, that's up to you. Uh,
yeah, it'll
but
probably come out.
the thing is, so what types of details were you doing with the furniture that would lend themselves to those types of descriptors?
There wasn't a straight line in it. Everything had to be swoopy and curvy and
I see.
inlays and blah blah blah. And it was very showy. It was loud.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't. It wasn't garish, but it was definitely a, "Hey, look at the skill that I just learned," or, "Hey, look at all these things that I can do," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it hit, and often it missed. It was too much,
Mm-hmm.
to look back at some of that stuff. Occasionally, I'd brush by a good, like, I don't know, something, it wasn't too much, but oftentimes it was just like, "Oh, it's okay, kid. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Just settle down,"
Well,
is
I
what I think
imagine.
when I look at it now.
Yeah, yeah, and I imagine like some of that too is kind of like you could at bare minimum hold your head up high that when you're looking around the workshop at other students' work that yours look different. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure there was probably some version of a subconscious effort in how can I not look like everybody else maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, the source of or the need for that was not the greatest place. I have some compassion for that me then. Um, it was what I needed from everyone, and that informed what I was making instead of, "Hey, yeah, I don't know how else to say that." It was needy,
Hmm.
and learning more about myself in the last 20 years, it's very clear why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, the upside of it was I got to exercise a lot of skills and learned a lot, and and fatten up my toolbox, which when I could calm down, then I could implement those things. I already had those muscles, and I could implement them when they were appropriate. It wasn't just like it was like a kid at the gym that needed to lift every weight in the gym. It's like, "Hey, look at me, look, 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 look. I can do this, 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 and this," and it was just a little excessive.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you took Easy Street, right? Like it seems like you were probably doing things that weren't exactly in order to show your skill perhaps, but also hone your ability.
All your assessments are much more generous than I am about them. Yeah. I mean, there definitely was an impetus to do something difficult because that was a route to getting people to look and say good job.
That's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
And so it's nice to have that skill set. It's nice to have those tools in the bag
Mhm.
when you want them. It was just I maybe this is everyone's path of you pick up an instrument and you want to play all the notes before you learn that, yeah, all the notes isn't the best thing.
Right.
But you're eager and you want everybody to see what you've learned, and so you're overplaying.
Mhm.
It's probably analogous to that. I overplayed pretty hard.
I mean, obviously you spoke about Santa Cruz not being for you, but what was the impetus or at least the function of timing with your move to Portland? Like what was the reason there and or
My daughter's high school graduation.
so you got out of there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, when we moved there, she was 3. And again, it was wonderful for her relationships. We had a grandma an hour south and a grandma an hour east, and it was great. And she's very close with both of them, so it perfectly facilitated that. But it was quickly, I soon after we went there, her mom and I started to divorce, and that was troubling. So Santa Cruz really didn't get a great first look. That was a really hard number of years. And that was kind of at my introduction to Santa Cruz.
Sure.
Couple that with I don't surf, I don't smoke weed and I really like to work, that's not a good. Santa Cruz is the laziest place I've ever lived. And it really, and that
You should visit San Diego.
I went to school for 2 years in San Diego. Uh,
How does that grab you?
well, it was different because I was in college, but I can totally see it. And I having having been born and lived in Hawaii, that's the laziest place on earth. I mean, I haven't been to Fiji or Tahiti or something, but I can think there's something about that tropical air that just slows people down.
Totally.
And 5 years ago, I would deliver that statement with full judgment. Now I understand uh, it was just a mismatch.
Mm.
It didn't what that town celebrated and endorsed was not what I it wasn't home for me. Um,
What happened five within the last 5 years?
I took a bunch of psychedelics and did therapy and unpacked my childhood and realized that I was judging everything around me to make myself feel better.
Where did you do that?
I did it with a guide in Oregon. That was where I started, and then subsequently have and continue to do it on my own.
So micro. Is that sort of like
No,
a? Oh, okay.
like specific sort of eventized like days that I'll do it. Not I'm not I'm not currently tripping.
Yeah.
uh, no, it was so the it started with a guide that was about an hour south of me who I got hooked up through a friend. I went through a how deep do you want to go here?
Well, I mean, we can go as deep as you want because I've never done it, and I can't really say the word curious isn't the right word, but I want to learn more if that makes sense.
Well, I only have my experience.
Sure.
It's been both brutal and really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And I think it needed to be brutal to be helpful. But there was a lot of I went through a breakup in Portland and had sort of a cratering from that, and which was familiar, but which seemed commensurate with the sort of depth of that relationship. But I had recalled at some point in that low point, I had recalled a previous relationship that wasn't as deep, but it had the same kind of ending. And what I had been correlating the sort of pain of the breakup, I had correlated with the person who I was with. Suddenly it was clear that there was something that was going on within me. It wasn't
Yeah.
about them.
Common denominator.
Yeah. And I had had a friend who I'd grown up with who had gotten into psychedelics for therapy. And it was someone that I never would have expected that. He and I were both pretty green and straight and uh and so it was interesting that he had gotten into it and had a lot of good come from it. And I was sort of in a place of desperation and he had access to a network of guides and I went and met with this guy and we started unpacking a whole treasure trove of shit.
Yeah.
Can I swear on here? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
100%. Let them rip. What has that changed your relationship with your daughter at all?
Yeah.
In what way?
It's changed every relationship.
Mm.
It I notice a lot of, you know, I had used I was stepping on other people my entire life to feel better about myself. It was a method I learned from my dad and stepmom when I was a kid, and I never unlearned it. And something in the going back in the psychedelic trips where it was, I could see how it got started and why it got formed, and that it had never evolved. And so just recognizing why I did something and not liking the reasons why made it a little, it made it, I don't know, it just felt gross in a way that I
Mm.
never really understood. It was sort of innate and almost involuntary within me, just sort of habitual. But
Yeah.
it was a little kid's version of, that's, I don't know how better to say it. I just never unlearned it or never learned a better way.
Sure.
So, so you asked about my daughter. more in I think in a example way. You know, I had taught her some of this judgment stuff. I had been judgy around her and she had seen that and she had inherited some of that. And so me softening in that and trying to show a different way, I think has been helpful. It's also allowed me to show up better for her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been close. I didn't do well during the split when she was little.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty selfish with my own pain in that and kind of uh Uh, it was a period that I will forever regret and feel some shame about and have used to inspire me to do better, just to kind of not be that again and make up for that,
Sure.
which I think that's been good. It's been a good fuel for me to try and be a better parent. Um, I think I'm dancing around your question.
No, I don't think so. And I think also, I think if I'm picking up what you're putting down, I feel like your daughter's aware of that sort of shame. I'm assuming you've probably
Oh
shared
yeah,
those feelings with
we
her.
run a pro honesty household.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think an open dialogue's super healthy.
You would ask
As
for a slightly more closed dialogue.
oh,
She's
sure.
I talk way too much for her, but
Yeah.
yeah, she gets it. Yeah.
Well, I can get that too. I mean, but, talking to your parents, I mean, it's a tricky, tightrope walk. But yeah, that's interesting, and congratulations, because I mean, obviously, like having those types of barriers and defense mechanisms are just you're only doing yourself a disservice, in my personal opinion, right? And
I did quite a few other people a disservice
right,
too,
well,
but
yeah,
you're
sure.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But you have to live with you, right? Like you don't have to live with everybody all the time, but you can't escape yourself. So it's kind of a
If only.
right, right. Yeah, as much as we try, you can't. Well, that's cool. I really appreciate the candor and you sharing, frankly. That's really nice. Are you so I always thought you were kind of a one man band, but you have this partner, obviously. So what is like the division of labor, so to speak, within Sugar?
Well, so his name is Noah, and I met him through a friend in Santa Cruz, and it was at a time I gotten a huge furniture job. It was going to be like a 6 month job and needed help. And he came highly recommended, and he had never done woodworking before, but he was a bike builder and a
Mm-hmm.
welder and worked on car. I mean, clearly the the bikes he made, the welding he does is it's unreal. So there was a skill set and a neuroses that was unteachable. And the woodworking thing, it was just like a different set of tools and different material. And so he came to help on that. And then when that job finished, I asked him if he wanted to stay, and God, that was probably 7 years ago.
Cool.
Let's see. Yeah, his wife was pregnant with their first, and he's seven. So that was 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow.
And he's the only reason this continues to work.
Really?
Yeah, there are a few people that I would uh let let put my name on something and me not worry about it. Like
Yeah.
he has sent out drums, many drums that I've never seen.
Mm.
Uh, and I am confident. I mean, I would argue he makes a better drum than me now. The woodworking was a quick learn for him. And again, that level of neuroses. So what happened when I moved to Portland was I get all the wood, take the orders, find the wood, and do the first set of milling. So everything that gets it to a stave. And then I box that up and I ship it down to him. And now the shop down there is just for turning things into circles. So he has all the lathes, and what used to be a whole wood shop that would make furniture and drums is now just a smaller drum building only shop.
Got it.
Because it's easier for me to do the milling up here. Um, and it gives me that control. And then I send it down and he finishes it out.
Cool. What types I mean, obviously maple is super popular in the drum community, but
We've never made a drum for maple.
oh, that's amazing. So what's your favorite wood to work with?
It depends. It depends on how
Is it aesthetic or like acoustic? related or both?
No, as I get older, it's the weight of the wood or the hardness of the wood or sometimes if I'm feeling more energetic, some of the harder, more painful to work with woods.
Okay.
Obviously, there's often there is a correlation with the degree of difficulty to work with it and how good it looks at the end.
Mm-hmm.
There are woods that are really heavy, destroy all the tools, a nightmare to work with and then they look just exquisite.
Yeah.
And then there are, I don't know, we have sort of a few species that have organically risen to the top, and they're easy to get, and they're consistent in quality, and they make a particular sound. And then every once in a while, I'll just go to the lumber yard and walk the aisles and see what catches my eye, and then we'll make a couple of those and sell them.
Why do you think you focused on the snare to start?
It's the voice of the drum kit. I mean, it's the thing, drummers will have a drum kit and they'll have 10 snares,
Yeah.
or it's financially approachable. It's the most common thing that drummers will have multiples of. Um, and our drums take a long time and they're not cheap. And to sell a full drum kit, it excludes a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
just financially. So a snare is a way in, but mostly it's just because I don't know how better to say it than the voice of a drum kit.
How often do you make a full kit?
These days, we probably make 5 to 10 a year, but we'll make 150 snares.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's COVID. We made a bunch of kits because we were all touring drummers were out of work, and touring drummers are all broke anyway. So it was only people that were stuck at home with real jobs who were hobby drummers, and they were trying to make home feel more fun and better, and so they were treating themselves to drum kits.
Here's a stupid question. What is there an approach to like a bass drum that is different than a snare as far as like how you make it? Not just the dimensions, obviously, but like, are they made the exact same way? And it's just
Exact
the
same way.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we came up with a system of how many pieces staves. They're all made like a wine barrel, so and it's always the same every time, which means the math on the angle stays the same. So we have a tool that's set up dedicated is only used for making that angle.
Right.
Then it's just the width of the stave that changes the diameter.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they're all made the same.
Do you mix woods ever with like the outer shell, inner shell type of thing?
There is only one shell.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just a solid piece all the way around.
I see. Okay.
We have once laminated two because the show would, I
I guess that's kind of what I'm referring to.
mean, most shells are laminated, they're plies, but we don't do them like that. So
Okay.
that's where you'd have an inner and outer and core. And so we just have the one piece that is chopped up into pieces and then glued into a circle. And then, yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What's was there sort of a model or sound that you were going for the first time, or I guess it was more just like an
Not shitting.
exploratory. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, do you have a favorite snare that you were trying to emulate with wood that could have been, a metal snare, for example?
Uh, I suppose at times, not at the beginning. I was just trying to make a
Functional product.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I knew I could make something pretty. That wasn't a fear. Making circles is some of the easier woodworking that I've done. So I didn't have any, I think a lot of drum builders come into it from being drummers, and that's how they enter, and then they learn the woodworking. Whereas I already knew the woodworking and knew the drumming a bit less. Um, and it was more about, can I make something that sounds good? And then if I can, then how do I start tweaking what within the shell do I tweak to change the sound? And
Yeah.
that came a lot from I would go grab the nicest snares off music store shelves and just sort of, examine them and start there and then move away from those dimensions or shapes and see how it affected the sound and then the species and blah blah blah, talking
Hmm.
to drummers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of good things organically rose from there. Yeah. I
Cool.
mean, we've made some shitty ones for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Some
I think
woods I think
that's,
just don't sound good. The
yeah.
first ones, yeah, yeah.
How long do they typically take, like start to finish?
I think it takes us about 10 hours to make one snare drum, but
Oh,
we
wow.
usually do them in batches and then that can drop the production aspect can drop it a little
Sure.
bit. Yeah.
So, what's your approach to hardware then? Did you develop your own, or was it like standard, like, I don't know, DW or something? Or like, what
At
did
the
you?
beginning, it was off the shelf stuff that,
Sure.
their hardware suppliers, not, you can't really buy someone, a company that like DW, you can't go buy their lugs. But there were parts distributors that had their own but then at some point I remember feeling like, well, I can't call this a custom company if I don't have my own
Right.
custom hardware. And then got hooked up with a company in Taiwan and they asked for CAD drawings. I had a design, they asked for CAD drawings and I told them I don't know how to draw in CAD. So I made a wooden lug and shipped it to them and they all laughed and then took measurements off that and then started making our lugs.
You wrote the email. Surely you have a 3D scanner, so you can you figure it
Surely you
out.
have a tape measure and a camera because
Yeah.
this is all I have. Please help me. Yeah. No, they've been wonderful, but I remember that however many years in 2010 or 11 and them chuckling in the email. But yeah,
What do you do to the hardware? Is it like nickel plated? Is it stainless steel? Like
chrome
what do you?
plated.
Okay, chrome. Got it.
Yeah. And we just do that. We just have the one hardware. Occasionally we'll get asked to do other colors or plating, and we're not set up for that. It was, our thing is more about the shells. So wanted to pick something that looked good with our shells and that's a standard. Yeah.
Sure. Made in the USA is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I make 90% plus 90 plus percent of my stuff here in the US up in LA.
hmm
It's not cheap to do that, obviously. Um, where do your prices start? Like, what was the methodology behind the pricing?
How much do I need to make this viable?
Right.
And where does that sit in relation to other companies, which I would call comparable?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We're not the most expensive. We're definitely not the cheapest. Uh, yeah, there was never I remember a woodworking class. They had some guy come in and talk about pricing your pieces. And he was always hammering this point of as much as you can get, which always felt really gross.
Right.
There was never that discussion. It was, I really like doing this. I don't want to drive the business into the side of a mountain. How much do I need? What seems fair? Um, and so it was first like hourly price of hardware. It was really easy to just add it up. And then it was a matter of, well, that's kind of pricey. How do I make the same product quicker? Because we can shave off a couple hours off each drum, and that will get the price down. And then we sort of squeeze the production method because a lot of it's done by hand, but there are steps along the way that you can run through a machine as long as the last bit is all made by hand, and then the same product at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's just how it was what we needed to make it viable.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Fairness.
Fair. Yeah, I was gonna say it just sounds fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I will say that I did have some extra comfort of charging what I thought was fair because I had 10 or 12 years of making custom furniture, which is an excruciating conversation for the first 5, 6 years of running that business. It's like, what does it cost? It's like, it's hard to tell someone their dining table is going to cost $20,000. But if they were to come join me in the shop and be there for the 350 hours that it was going to take, it would be like, and I
yeah.
got I got a lot better with that conversation and I developed a comfort with it so we could have that early on.
Yeah.
Let's do the worst part of this on day one and
Right.
see that because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time. And I also don't need to make you feel bad that you can't afford a $20,000 dining table. That's uh I want you to feel good about this whole thing. So let's just see if we're in the same range. And then once that's done, then we get to play about design and wood and shapes and all that kind of stuff. So it, that that ease was developed over many years of unease in the furniture business. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think depending on your client, whoever's buying a $20,000 table, I love the just the notion of saying, well, what would you pay yourself per hour to do this?
Yeah, that was brought up, and I tried that clumsily a couple times. It never came out well. Everyone I remember that whoever said that, yeah, just do that. Just say we'll just trade hours. And
Yeah.
I never figured out a way to say that in a good way. Um, it was more about I just needed to be comfortable myself
Yeah.
and know I know that I was never trying to cheat anyone. I know that I was never trying to squeeze anyone. Any time that I edged towards that, that felt gross about me. And suddenly it was like this bigger inner turmoil. It's just like,
Right.
I want to keep doing this. What do I need to pay rent and to keep the lights on and maybe save up to help pay for college for my kid one day? Like those aren't unreasonable requests. Let's do
No.
that.
Yeah. No, totally.
Which is all fine. It's a little hard to find people that can pay $20,000 for, will pay you to indulge this ridiculous skill set that really isn't needed. It's all, I mean, in 25 years, I've never made anything that anybody needed. I'm a want-based business.
100%. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I love the whole like, oh, well, this is such a first world problem. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you think about it, we live in the first world, so we just
Yeah.
call them problems. But outside of that, it's just kind of like, well, what do you want me to do? I mean, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fueled by passion, and I think if we lived in a world surrounded with products with no passion, it'd be pretty bleak. You know what I mean?
We kind of do.
Well, I mean, sort of. I mean, slowly.
For the most part. Yeah. Yeah, which is really nice. I've been incredibly lucky in finding people that not only have the resources to do it, but wish to allocate those resources to this
Right.
needless, only love, want thing.
Yeah.
It's completely analogous to patrons of artists of old. It's like, hire you to paint this wall. Like we could just paint it white, but I
Yeah.
want to hire you that learn this weird skill that will take you 6 years to paint it, and then it'll be amazing.
Right.
Like,
Right.
God bless you that you found me and you want me to do this. I found a couple people. I worked for one guy for 3 years. It's the only reason I was able to buy this place in Portland. I was the only reason I was able to pay for college for my kid because of one person.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have very easily never met him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, not in his case, but in many other cases, the whole buy once, cry once type of mentality as well. That $20,000 table could be, I mean, generational, I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
last forever.
It it damn well should be. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's my mentality as well. And use it, like you're going to drop shit on your table, a little nick here and there. It's great.
yeah.
Don't do it on purpose, but
I don't think he cried when he bought
yeah,
it.
well, he doesn't sound like the type who would.
Yeah, no, yeah.
um, how do you look at sponsorship, be it with a musician, or is that a marketing opportunity? Is it friendship based? Is it both? Like,
I don't do it.
no, zero. That's awesome.
No.
That's great.
Everyone, that's a bit of a blanket statement. Everyone at the beginning, I remember when I was starting, I was asking people within the drum industry, how do I start this business?
Mm-hmm.
You got to make drums for famous people, and then kids see them playing them, and that's how you sell drums. It's like, wait, so the people that are making the most money get all the free shit,
Yeah,
so then I can then charge kids who have no money. That feels gross because I was that kid. I wanted cool shit and couldn't afford it.
totally.
And so I have a natural defiant 9-year old in me that when someone tells me this is what you need to do, um, it's not a I can do better or it's just a fuck you, no. I mean, to my own detriment in a lot of cases, but that was my reaction to that. Um, but there was also I couldn't pay rent doing that. I didn't have 100 shells on the shelf that I could hand out to drummers.
Right.
and hope that someone sees a poster of that, the poster that I had to pay for to get the photographer to, it's just like, good Lord, I'd rather make fewer and get all the wage from it. And then there was the part of, I didn't want anybody saying nice things about what I made if they didn't actually feel it.
Mm.
And if I gave it to them for free, there's this sort of product for praise barter that felt gross to me. It felt insincere. Um, so yeah, everybody just bought their stuff, and that was a hard thing to say to people. They're the first. I call it whale. The first drummer of note was the guy named Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes, who we had a mutual friend who hooked us up. And bless him, we got to that point where I made him a snare drum and he really liked it. He goes, I want to make a kit. And this was my first, shit, I think I'm supposed to give it to him for free. He's going out to, this is what I can't do that. I don't have any money to do that. I don't want to. And he headed it off very early. It's like, I'm buying this kit. I don't want to say anything about your drums if I don't feel it. This will eradicate all of that. So it was sort of by model or by example that it's like, oh, that's an easy way to make this clean. I charge, you pay, everybody's free to say whatever they want. Turns
That's
out he loved
rare.
him and said nice things. Yeah, I mean, credit to him for sort of showing me that that's possible, and it requires a human of integrity, and because he could get free shit all day.
Totally.
Um,
And does.
yeah, and has become a really dear friend, and that was the other thing that whenever, because I would get those emails a lot, they would call it, "Hey, I'm looking for a symbiotic relationship." That was that was like, "Oh, you want free shit?" That's what that means. It's like, let's work together. Oh, you mean I work and then you get the stuff? That's what you mean by work together? That was the kind of the different language that would come in and with the emails. And um it always, yeah, I mean, one, I couldn't do it, uh and it always just felt gross. And I wasn't liking the connection with the human anymore. It was commerce, and the drum company was never going to make a lot of money, so it wasn't really a commerce thing. It was, I just wanted to make pretty things for people who appreciate pretty things and pay my rent doing it.
That's great.
So that's kind of, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it totally does, and a massive amount of respect. I love that. I should probably take some of that advice.
Well, be careful. I mean,
No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, and t-shirts and drums are very different. Let's be fair. But I'm curious about the types of sales channels. I mean, you mentioned Instagram earlier as far as like a way to market, but is it just direct to consumer through your website? Do you do any wholesale or?
we have done we've done a bit of wholesale with a couple drum shops. Um, and it's only been through meeting the owners and really liking them,
Cool.
and then it's just us supporting each other. It's a hard, the percentage lost, it's a hard way for me. We're not making so much profit on a drum that I can just ditch 30% and still make a wage.
Totally.
It's nice for when we have 8 orders and we make 12 drums and I send the other four to that drum shop.
Hmm.
And it's basically only one now in Nashville. And that's only because he's become a really dear friend.
Cool.
And it's a way for us to support each other.
Sure. What's the shop called so we can shout them out?
Nelson Drum Shop.
Okay, Nelson. Sure. Cool.
Um, yeah, this whole company has become much more about the human interaction than the product. Much more than I would have predicted. Making furniture for 10, 12 years before this started, the connections were close, but there's something very different about making an instrument for someone who's going to use it in the thing that they love doing every day versus making a kitchen or a table or a chair that they use maybe for a half hour a day or 3 times a week or something. The
Right.
level of appreciation and enthusiasm is different, and I didn't predict that. It was more of, here's another pretty wood thing that I figured out how to make.
Yeah.
how do I keep doing this? Well, I got to sell some. So, but the interactions were so much more enthusiastic, and the number of friends I've made by making these wooden circles was I was oblivious to that happening, and the focus of it has shifted completely to that,
That's great.
and has actually influenced the furniture as well. It's like the amount of hit that I get from that interaction is much more than a sale. Um, so yeah, that's been the best part of this company, and I didn't predict it from the start.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful.
I have a really random furniture question. If you're buying a dining room table from you, is it kind of like a, I don't know, $1,000 a foot type of thing? Or how do you price your furniture?
Oh, no. I have cabinet maker friends that can price their stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they know per linear foot pretty roughly. I've never had a system like that because every piece is so different. The level of intricacy, the kind of wood.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no. So
Interesting.
no.
Yeah, okay. No, fair. I mean, it was a yes or no question, to be fair.
Yeah,
Um,
no. Just a
I,
hard no on that one.
cool. I saw in one of your Instagram reels, the music that you played to it was by a band called Dag. And I worked at a surf shop when I was 16, and we used to religiously play their Righteous album.
Oh, really?
So I wondered what your relationship was with Dag.
Full honesty, somewhat. Some friend on Instagram posted a reel of their own with that,
I see.
and I saw,
Okay.
yeah, I think I may come across far cooler than I am with a broader, more eclectic musical taste.
I mean, it's a deep cut, man. I'm gonna be shocked at who DMs me and be like, "Yeah, Dag was rad." Like, I don't know anybody who knows that band, so that's why I was
I
like,
know
I
it
gotta write
because
this down.
someone cooler than me knew it,
That's
and I
great.
ripped it off and put it off as, yeah, this is just something that I listen to.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Watches and cars often come up on this show. One would argue that's kind of a root of a lot of the subject matter. What watch are you wearing on your wrist right now?
I am wearing, I don't know the model number. It's a watch that my brother gave me because my brother is into watches
Oh, cool.
and I'm into my brother. And it was a really sweet gift. Maybe you can tell me what it is.
Okay. I may not be able to. The pressure is on. It is a Rolex Oyster Precision, which, okay, white dial, stainless steel. I guarantee you that it's probably 36 millimeters. If I had to guess that.
34.
Okay, it is a 34. Sometimes the precision dials were called the oversized, which would make it 36. But if that's 34, is it from the like late 60s, early
Late 60s,
70s?
early 70s.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to give like a birthday watch. I was
Oh,
born in
birth year.
71. And I
Okay.
and I know it's a linen dial because I had he started he if you look at my text thread with my brother, it's pictures of our kids and watches, and that's all it is.
That's amazing.
Occasionally pants.
Oh, pants.
There's a thing about pants. And
The linen dial didn't come across through the camera, so I couldn't tell that. But that's beautiful.
that was one of the things that I would always respond to in the watches that he would send. I was like, "Oh, what is that? What is that?" And I had had an old Seiko from my
Okay.
birth year, and that had a linen dial, and then that thing broke, and then he gave me this, which is it still feels a little weird, and because I would not buy this watch for myself.
Because it's a Rolex. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like I mean it's the same. Says the guy who has a Porsche in the garage. It's the same thing. I feel so uncomfortable, like a member of a club I didn't gain at, like I can't went through the back door kind of thing. Somehow I snuck in. And I'm not a member. I'm not a car guy. I'm not a watch guy. I think this is beautiful. I love that it was from around when I was born. Um, but mostly I love it because it reminds me of my brother every time I put it on.
That's
And that
beautiful.
feels, it's like, I don't know if you watch Super Friends, but do you remember Jan and Zaina?
No.
You didn't watch Super Friends? You're not that young.
I've never watched it. My this show isn't about me, obviously, but like I was outside as a child. Like I didn't watch a ton of
Oh,
television.
I'm an indoorsman.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've quite frankly, I've never heard of Super Friends in my life. And if I have, I
Superman
was
and Aquaman and Batman, and
okay,
there was the
yeah.
Hall of Justice where they would all meet, but there were the Wonder
Definitely
Twins,
not me.
Zan and Jaina, and they had bracelets that were matching bracelets, and that's a feat. I remember them and the fondness for that show and my fondness for my brother every morning when I put it on. So it just feels like, yeah, it's a connection to him.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment. I love it. I love the idea of gifting watches as well, just in general. Like it could have been the Seiko, right? Like just giving
Yeah.
somebody a watch is, again, another product that will last forever, provided you take care of it, Um, I want to talk to you about your Porsche because that was another reason why I think early connected through DMs. I recall it being blue. Am I wrong? It is
Yeah,
blue.
it's sort of a
Okay.
Zoloft blue. It's which has now become my favorite color. Yeah. It is the same color as the pills. I would know.
That's hysterical. What year's the car?
It's 2 years because it was made from two crashed cars.
Oh wow.
The front half is a 73 911S, and the back half is a 69 912. And
Oh
then all the
wow.
parts came from the 911. So Noah, the guy I work with,
Yeah.
his uncle bought the two cars and then got a hold of a Porsche frame jig and took the clean halves and welded it together, and then got back at a time when you could go to swap meets and get Porsche parts for not outrageous amounts, and just started loading boxes of parts. And best I can tell, because I bought it as a rolling chassis and 40 boxes of parts, was that he had it running, cracked a piston, took it apart, and then never put it back together, fell ill with cancer and passed away. And his
Oh no.
family was like clearing out his garage because we found a cracked piston and an engine half apart, and then all the parts off the car. It only had wheels attached to the frame. There was not another thing bolted to this car.
Wow.
And I was naive enough to think I was smart enough that I could figure it out. And 200 Sundays later, it finally drove again.
Oh, so you did all the work.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Me, Noah, another friend, found a friend of Noah's that used to build Porsche engines for a shop, and he would come over at 5 after his job and help me rebuild the engine. Yeah, it's a group of us built it over 5 years. It was a complete piece of shit. I mean, it was like I said, it was metal and wheels, and everything that attaches to the car was in a box. Um,
Now is that a 4 speed?
it's a 5 speed.
Oh, it is a five. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long have you owned this car?
Uh, that's a good
Well,
question.
Noah came into the picture 8 years ago. So
Well, yeah, so 8 years, yeah, 8 years. So I guess it's been on the road for three,
okay, so 3 years driving.
something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I love it now. Hated it for 5 years.
Oh, because of the work?
It was, I have a predisposition for overwhelm, and somehow voluntarily get myself into things that flare this overwhelm. And this was a 5 year overwhelm.
Dude, I am the exact same way. I had an episode yesterday where I was just like, fuck this, man. Like I was just I think if I could speak out of school for a hot second, which I guess I kind of often do on the show, um, I feel like creative people have, oftentimes dovetailed with like ADHD or ADD or something like that, which I'm not diagnosed either one. But as I've gotten older, I don't know if it's like adult onset ADHD or something where it's like, or if it's just a function of me being a one man band and having so many plates spinning.
Hmm.
But I think about once a month, twice a month sometimes, and some months I skip, but I just get completely overwhelmed. Like it's just like everything is just too much communication, too many products, too many projects. The to do list is too long. I'm running behind
And it's
perpetually,
all your own doing.
and it's all my fault. Yeah, and it's always my fault because I
You should get a
can't
partner
blame.
just so you can blame it on them.
Well, and it would be less about that and just being like, okay, well, at least just the dialogue. Maybe that's why I started the show. No, no, I'm just kidding. But for real, it's something I'm very close to emotionally. What you're referring to. So
Yeah. So imagine a 5 year overwhelm sitting in the middle of your shop.
this is why I don't work on cars.
Yeah, this is why I no longer work on cars. That's a bit reductive. There were periods that were joyful.
Sure,
Um, I guarantee if it were only me working on it, it never would have been finished. And um, so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I imagine I got it because a friend got an old car and I thought that was cool, and maybe this would
hmm
make me cool. And there is sort of an innate, same thing as the watch, same thing as the furniture that I make. There's an innate interest in things that were well designed and well made and that people cared.
totally.
In this, I thought a lot about while working on that car about small German men lying on drafting tables, drawing with a pencil, this thing that is in my eyes, I mean, it's just a beautiful set of lines. It's just so fucking pretty.
Yeah,
And there are these periods in time. I had a number of old Vespas for the same thing to make me cool or appear cool. But a lot of it was it's like you see a product developing and it's like it's almost there, or there are facets of it that are cool, and then it's getting better, and then they just hit for this period and everything is perfect. And for someone who is for 27 years been a professional fault finder of
hmm
what's wrong with this, keep going until there's nothing wrong with this. There are these periods of these design periods where there was nothing wrong with anything, and then it drifted out, and then it got into the 80s and went to shit, and
hmm
but this car, those scooters, this watch, I mean, these things that it, it feels, it feels like you're touching a period of time where this sort of sublime period of time that they landed on something.
yeah,
And I don't pretend that I've hit that. I can see in furniture that I've made that it's like, ooh, a little clunky, too many things. But, oh, that's a little better. Oh, that one landed. Like that one. That one you were calm. That was the right amount of skill implemented, the right amount of design, and then you backed off. And then, the next piece was like, you kind of slipped again. Um, it just feels, I don't know if for me, it's less about the association with the coolness of it and more of an association with a time where people were doing really good work
yeah,
and a sense of caring. Like the fact that these things still work meant
yeah.
somebody had to care at some point. Um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't very eloquently found a way to express what association I'm feeling, but there is. I always think about the people who designed and made it when I see the things, and that scratches something in me.
Yeah. I'm on a teeter totter constantly of perfection and wabi sabi. You know what I mean? Like I want it to be perfect, but then again, there's beauty in imperfection, and maybe that's another internal like emotional struggle of my own. But because I also think it's product contingent too. Like some things, noticing imperfections makes it look cheap, and then other things they make it look more organic and kind of usable and real and things of that nature. Side note: what's your approach to color with the drums? You've used automotive paint colors, yeah?
Yeah, we painted for a while, and that was fun because then I was pulling from design periods that I thought were cool, or certain cars or certain things. We painted a bunch like the Porsche. I had an old BMW 2002 that my daughter learned to drive in, and so that had
Sick.
extra sentimental value. So we did an orange like that, and it's all. I mean, as I'm listening to myself talk, it all goes back to sentiment, some
hmm
feeling that I had. But our painter moved away and we stopped painting, and uh, he was brilliant. He was kind of a pain in the ass. Again, brilliant, but it wasn't, and it was pretty expensive, so we stopped doing those.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So not much approach to color. I let
Yeah.
Mother Nature choose.
It was, speaking of your blue car, that's what reminded me. It kind of jogged my memory. But so when do you drive the car? Is it a daily driver? Is it a weekend warrior?
It's neither. I mean, in Portland, I don't drive it in the rain. It's got no protective coating um, uh, so it's seasonal or
Okay.
mood based.
Right.
It's when I feel guilty that it's been sitting there that long. Um, most of the time it just sits in the shop with a cover on it. Sometimes I forget I have it and then I get excited and I see it again. And
That's the best.
which is a ridiculous thing to say. That's gross to hear it out of my mouth.
No, but I'm that way with my watches. I'll like open my safe and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I had this. Like, and you rediscover it and it's amazing.
I don't have any things worthy of a safe, or the car won't fit in a safe.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, no, it's a rare drive. Um, I I treated myself to a different car that's a daily driver that I really love. So that kind of scratches the driving itch.
What is it?
I imported a BMW E30 wagon.
Oh, amazing. Oh, incredible.
Another thing that, the ones before, not quite, and then they landed on that. And then the scarcity because they never shipped them to the States. And I won't pretend it's not me trying to look cooler than I am, just like everything else I own. But it's also, like it sits in the shop and I come in the shop every morning. It's like, that thing's so pretty. And it's really fun to drive. And it's just reliable enough that it's not a pain in the ass. Um, like if I drove the Porsche every day, I would fall out of love with it because things would start breaking and, it's also not comfortable. It's loud and bumpy and you reek like gas and oil and that's fun for once a month, but not every day. So for me,
Well, Jefferson, I think this is a great place to wrap it up, and I think it's high time you consider yourself to be cooler than you think you are, because you obviously have taste and you have an eye. Obviously, I mean the things that you're gravitating towards are like, I mean, I'm a huge wagon nut, and I don't think I'm that cool, but I also think wagons are cool. Like the wagon's cool, not me. You know what I mean? So it's, well, and that's just it. And so an E30 wagon is a very specific vehicle, and
yeah,
it's very cool. So you're cool.
cool by proxy. So it worked. So you're telling me it worked.
Everything's working.
Finally worked. Oh my God, this is
Mission accomplished.
Jesus, where have you been?
Right.
I should have done this years ago.
I know. Thank you for your time, man. I genuinely enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking
Me
the
too.
time.
Yeah,
thank
my
you very
pleasure.
much. This wraps up this episode of the Standard Age podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.